First tonight on Our News Live at 7.
The Haitian Prime Minister says he is saddened by the burden placed on the shoulders of the Bahamas by illegal immigrants coming here. We've got an exclusive sit-down interview with him, and that's coming up straight ahead on Our News.
Plus, Canada's Prime Minister pledges naval support for Haiti, but he explains the ships will not interfere in the migration of people. And the Turks and Caicos Islands to open local offices in the Bahamas. And then in Our News at 7:30, the Coalition of Independence leader and some supporters arraigned in court will tell you how it all unfolded. Our News Live at 7 starts now. Regular meeting of CARICOM heads of government coming to a close just moments ago, marking the end of what regional leaders are calling a successful three-day conclave. Welcome to Our News Live at 7. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Kindino Knowles. We are coming to you live from Bahamas Resort on Cable Beach, where the closing press conference of this year's meeting that was chaired by Prime Minister Philip Davis happening moments ago. We have continued team coverage tonight with our Megan Shepherd, who has been following these meetings, and our Talia Hall coming up in Our News at 7:30. Before we check in with Megan, the crisis in Haiti getting a lot of time and focus for CARICOM leaders. It was a priority agenda item coming into these meetings, and our Jerome Sawyer sat down with the Haitian Prime Minister today, who spoke on a number of issues. He gives us a preview tonight.
Haiti's troubles began in earnest in July 2021 with the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. A decades-old, fragile peace between rival gangs disintegrated into often murderous violence, and almost immediately leading to food and fuel shortages, sparking a cholera health crisis and even restarting a vexing migration issue. But as CARICOM leaders opened discussions here in New Providence this week, an ongoing U.S. investigation revealed a chilling plot by American interests in South Florida to assassinate President Moïse, and leading to 4 arrests so far. For Haitian President Ariel Henry, it's a sign of progress towards justice that he thinks is critical for both countries.
I think that is in the interest of the U.S., is in the interest of Haiti, that we know who did this crime.
The images of boatloads of Haitian refugees, the staggering cost to repatriate them, the legal wrangling over shanty towns, and more recently the contentious demonstrations over illegal migrants has cast an uncomfortable spotlight on the issue for Bahamians. President Henry struck a sympathetic tone when asked to respond.
I'm very sad for the burden that we are putting on your shoulder. And seeing those people living in some boat and sailing in bad condition, and that they arrive here in the Bahamas.
While here this week, the Haitian Prime Minister spoke with his CARICOM colleagues about the need for more police and food security, as well as the need to have those democratic in-country elections. We also spoke a bit about the effect the sanctions were having imposed on those who were contributing to the in-country violence. We'll have more about that in later reports. For now, at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, I'm Jerome Sawyer reporting for Our News.
Here's Berthany McDermott.
Hours after pledging naval support to Haiti, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says those ships will not intercept migrant vessels leaving the island nation.
They are there to assist the Haitian National Police in their efforts to control the gang activity in Port-au-Prince and along the coast. We have seen in the past that the presence of Coast Guard ships or ships there from allies significantly dissuaded the gangs from using the waterways as an extra sphere of influence for them.
400 Haitian nationals were apprehended in Bahamian waters in recent weeks. But as the situation worsens, the police force in Haiti continues to shrink rapidly. It's against this backdrop that the Canadian Prime Minister says it's important to move quickly to provide support. And as other countries like Jamaica have pledged to send in troops to support Haiti, Trudeau was asked if Canada has ruled out the possibility. To that, he says Canada has sent many missions to Haiti over the past 30 years.
We also must learn from what has worked and what has not worked in the past.
The Canadian Prime Minister also revealing 17 sanctions. Trudeau telling reporters the goal is to destabilize those funding Haitian gangs. He says the sanctions have had a significant impact on those responsible for Haiti's hardships.
Canada has long recognized that much of the instability in Haiti comes from a small number of powerful elite families who are fomenting instability and financing violence.
At the moment, he says equipping law enforcement is their best chance. Trudeau adding that the situation requires us all to step up. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthany McDermott.
All right, thanks a lot, Berthany. And the Bahamas and Turks and Caicos Islands looking to strengthen their relationship within the next 30 days. The country's premier speaking with our Megan Shepherd this morning during the final day of CARICOM meetings. She joins us now with more on this. Megan?
Thanks, Kendino. Well, yes, I did have an opportunity to speak one-on-one with the Premier of Turks and Caicos today, who says that country is brimming with economic and job opportunities. To this end, he is in country doing double duty, obviously attending CARICOM, as well as looking to open the doors to spread those opportunities to the diaspora here in the Bahamas. Let's take a look how. The Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands have long enjoyed a mutually beneficial relationship, and within a month's time, that could grow even more. TCI Nation's Premier Charles Mizik says recent meetings have further cemented plans to have a physical presence in New Providence and Grand Bahama.
Both to deepen our cooperation and relationship with the Bahamas, but also to act as a facilitator for our huge diaspora in the Bahamas.
Mizik says their population is currently low, and the country takes very seriously the benefits it can leverage from the global diaspora, many of which are located here in the Bahamas.
Because of the size of the population, obviously it stands to reason that a lot of the skills that would be in short supply, and they may be available among our diaspora, which we would be happy to tap into.
He gave this timeline for the establishment of those offices.
We have identified a location, and the paperwork is in process. And we have appointed 2 liaison offices, one here in Nassau and one in Grand Bahama. So we're on our way, and that office we hope will be opened sometime during the course of the next 30 days or so.
Now, you may recall that a number of Bahamian police officers were sent to that country in October of last year. The Premier gave this update.
It has made a real difference to the spike in violent gun crimes that we were experiencing at the time. And that relationship and collaboration continues. We still have some Bahamian officers, particularly from your technical unit or the NTCI, who's been assisting with training and with actual field work.
Now, Premier Mizik will be traveling to Grand Bahama tomorrow morning, where he will be finalizing plans for an offices there in the nation's second city. Reporting live from Bahama Convention Center, I'm Megan Shepherd. Back to you, Kendino.
All right, thanks a lot, Megan. Well, this 44th regular CARICOM meeting, bringing in delegations not just from countries in this region, but from around the world. Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell telling Jerome Sawyer on yesterday's episode of On the Record that some 40 ambassadors have come in to show their support for the region. Senior Vice President of Bahama and President of the Bahamas Hotel Tourism Association, Robert Sands, says the meeting has led to some impressive occupancy levels.
Occupancy levels are extremely high, certainly here at Bahama, but also throughout New Providence at this particular point in time. And that's a direct result of the fact that pent-up demand is in fact in place, the return of significant amount of group business, and also we are in the height of the tourism season as well. We have multiple groups. I mean, they've been in abeyance for at least since before COVID and during COVID, and now they're coming back. And that's a substantive part of the base of many hotels that allows then the leisure business to grow on top of that.
Got much more to get to in a moment, but for now, it's time for your first look at temperatures. And standing by in studio in the Weather Center is meteorologist Greg Thompson with the latest. Greg?
Yeah, thanks, Gideon, and a happy Friday evening, everybody. A beautiful evening setting up for us on the outdoors. Pretty warm, but it's still a beautiful and pleasant evening. Temperatures are in the mid to upper 70s with just a few clouds outside. Your winds are out of the southeast at 8 miles per hour, and your feels like temperature at 76. Temperatures around the islands tonight, very warm this evening, 78 in Freeport, as well as in Marsh Harbour, Abaco, and in Allenstown, Bimini. We pick up 79s in Great Harbour Key, Nicholstown, Andros. 77 over in Governor's Harbour, 78 here in the capital. Central Bahamas, 77 in Kemps Bay, 78 in Arthurtown, Cat Island. Georgetown, Exuma, 79, 76 in Cuba San Salvador, 79 in Deadman's Key. And further south, temperatures also near the 80-degree mark there with 79s most locations. The exception being Abrahams Bay, you are at 77, and neighbors to the southeast, Turks and Caicos Islands, you round out our temperature profile at 76. Satellite view, another beautiful sunny day around the islands. That high pressure system is retreating well out towards the east. That's giving us that southeast to southerly flow, bringing in those warm temperatures, and that will continue to be the trend overnight, but that high will shift out towards the east further. That will allow a frontal boundary now moving across North Florida to move into our area early tomorrow morning. In a weakened state, couple isolated showers expected with that frontal boundary as it gets in here. But once that front goes through, we expect it to stall and then lift back towards the north by Sunday. That's your first look at weather. Stick with us and look at your extended forecast.
Thanks, Greg. And still to come on our news, more New Providence roads are set to get a facelift. Will it affect your commute? But first, iconic businessman and restaurateur George Myers has died. Tourism industry leaders reflect on his legacy. And we have all the highlights of Thursday's return of Junior Junkanoo on Grand Bahama. That's coming up when our news continues.
It's time now to meet the starters.
RTV, home of the 50th Carifta Games.
Police are investigating an alleged suicide attempt after they say a 32-year-old woman attempted to overdose on medication. Investigators telling us the incident happened in northeastern New Providence when a woman took a large volume of over-the-counter medication at her home following a domestic dispute. EMS was called and the woman is being treated and monitored in hospital. And we also learned today that iconic businessman, restaurateur, and tourism mogul George Myers has passed away. He was 83 years old. The Myers Group saying he died peacefully in his home yesterday. He created the Myers Group in 1992 and expanded to operate restaurant franchises including KFC, Dunkin' Donuts, Quiznos, Burger King, and Pizza Hut. Hotel Tourism Association President Robert Sands calling Myers a trailblazer in the industry.
First of all, let me extend condolences to his family. George Myers was an iconic hotelier, a trailblazer in tourism. In fact, he was personally responsible for me entering the hospitality industry some 53 years ago. He mentored and inspired multiple Bahamian hoteliers in this country. His legacy has been established.
All right, we have more on his legacy coming up in our news, the weekend edition. But tonight, we wrap up our closer look into the Gladstone Road Improvement Project. Jamila Mizik tells us the next project you can look out for in tonight's Work in Progress segment.
Now that Gladstone Road has been resurfaced, motorists can now enjoy a smoother ride for a while. General Manager of Bahamas Ryan Ramming says, for the most part, the paving portion of the Gladstone Road Improvement Project is complete, but there's just one more thing to be done.
There is a slight improvement that will happen at this southern end. We will pave the actual junction of Gladstone and Carmichael Road. just roughly 100 feet on either side of the junction so that we can widen it to allow turning lanes.
And with more road work on the way, he's thanking the motoring public for their cooperation and asking that motorists continue to exercise patience as they work to improve the ride quality throughout New Providence.
We are currently improving the ride quality along West Bay Street. We're going to move in the vicinity of Bay Street proper. We have a portion of Mackey Street that we'll complete, and along Shirley Street that we'll complete. So there are lots of roads, that we plan to address, during this fiscal period.
Reporting for Work in Progress for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
When our news comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as a probe of Jamaica's Prime Minister wraps up. Plus, Junior Junkanoo's sweet return to Grand Bahama. We've got the sights and sounds coming up. And later, we take a sneak peek at a new art space at a local resort. The details when our news returns.
It's time now to meet the starters.
RTV, home of the 50th Carifta Games.
Welcome back to our news, broadcasting live from the Bahamas Resort on Cable Beach, where the 44th meeting of CARICOM heads of government wrapping up just moments ago. We've got more from that today in a moment, but we turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. 5 Memphis police officers pleaded not guilty on Friday to second-degree murder and other charges stemming from the beating death of Tyree Nichols. Police video captured images of the officers beating him following a traffic stop on January 7th. The case has renewed a national conversation about race relations in the United States as well as police brutality. The 5 officers, who were all fired, are now on bail. New Zealand's Prime Minister Chris Hipkins says he expects there to be more deaths from a violent storm which killed 8 people and cut off hundreds of communities. More than 4,500 people have yet to be contacted after Cyclone Gabriel hit on Monday, causing significant flooding and landslides across the North Island. Many cities and towns are also without power or clean drinking water. And finally, a top prosecutor in Jamaica ruling Thursday that Prime Minister Andrew Holness won't face charges over possible conflict of interest in contracts awarded to a construction company in 2007 to 2009 while he was Education Minister. The commission says it investigated the case after a news report in 2016 raised questions about close ties between the Prime Minister and principals of a company hired for several projects. The return of Junior Junkanoo in Grand Bahama taking center stage last evening. It's the first parade on the island post-Hurricane Dorian in 2019. Jamila Mizik reports it was a grand time for all.
This segment of the news is brought to you by H.G. Christie in Grand Bahama, celebrating over 100 years of service in the Bahamas.
Preschools, primary schools, and high schools showed up and showed out on Piners Way for the return of the Junior Junkanoo Parade on the Northern Island. Youth, Sports, and Culture Minister Mario Bullock says he's pleased with the numbers.
We had 24 schools here, which is 15 out of the government school, I was told. And that's a great support for the schools here in Grand Bahama when we only had 12 in New Providence after 2 years hiatus.
And he says the talent displayed by the youngsters was impressive.
They look very, very nice. You can see that they put some work into it, and these kids have some talent and skills with their artist work and the work that they can do. And I'm not surprised, but I can tell you one thing. If this was the National Junkanoo Parade in New Providence, it would have been a great stiff competition between the schools from here in New Providence.
Deputy co-chair of the National Junkanoo Committee, Kishleen Smith, also sharing her excitement for the return of the parade.
The energy is infectious. The energy is exciting, it's alive, it's vibrant. It proves that Junkanoo is here in the Bahamas. Junkanoo did not go anywhere, and even though we had COVID, unfortunately we had to endure those difficult years, but Junkanoo is back, and it's back in a big way.
As for the scoring of the junior parade, NJ BJC's chair of scoring, Kevin Pratt, says timely results were the order of the day.
Too many years, people have been crying about, oh, you cheat me, you rob me. No. The scoreboard that I have right now is going to come out in seconds. It is going to be accurate, and nobody have anything to say.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Missick.
Still to come in our news, today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was February 17th as we celebrate the birthday of one of our golden knights. Plus, Greg is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in our news at 7:30, the closing of the 44th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting. That's coming up when Our News returns.
It's time now to meet the starters.
RTV, home of the 50th Carifta Games.
Welcome back to Our News. It's time now for our historical recap of the day that was February 17th, including the birth of an Olympic multi-medalist. Take a look. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1776, a fleet of ships departed from Delaware to conduct a raid on the town of Nassau in what would turn out to be the first amphibious operation of the Continental Marines. The Bahamas Historical Society notes the fleet was ordered to recover gunpowder and ammunition that had been ordered away from Virginia to New Providence by Governor Lord Dunmore. The 8 ships arrived in the Bahamas 2 weeks later for the Battle of Nassau. Then in 1887, British colonial administrator George Strahan, who served as colonial secretary from 1868 to 1872, died in England. He was 48. Strahan also served as acting governor from 1872 to 1873. In 1905, the Spanish ship Anton was caught in a storm and sank off the coast of Abraham's Bay in Mayaguana. The Historical Society noting the ship and her crew of 6 sailors were rescued by residents, some of whom came to plunder the cargo from the wrecked vessel. The sailors from the boat were held as captives for 16 days before they commandeered a boat and made their escape south to Inagua. And finally, on this day in 1987, Olympic multi-medalist Ramon Miller was born in Nassau. At the 2008 Summer Olympic Games in Beijing, China, Miller helped the men's 4x4 meter relay team win the silver medal. 4 years later, at the 2012 Olympic Games in London, Miller anchored the men's 4x4 meter relay team to a gold medal, earning them the title Golden Knights. We've been fortunate to broadcast from the magnificent Bahamar Hotel for these high-level meetings the past few days, and while we've been here, we got to learn about the waves it's been making in art with its gallery and art center called The Current. But recently, the property unveiled an extension of The Current called the Echo Museum. Our Marlena Leonard joins us live from there right now. Marlena, what can you tell us about the space? I'm quite interested to see how it looks.
Well, Candino, the Expressive Collaborations and Creative House of Opportunity, also known as ECHO, is a fairly new installation. They just opened in October of last year, but they're already making their mark on the local art scene. We spoke to Bahamar's Executive Director for Arts and Culture, John Cox, for more on the space's arts, events, and opportunities.
He tells us that although Bahamar already had an existing gallery and art space called The Current, ECHO's size opens up new opportunities.
Up in ECHO, it changes it because then you're able to do it in a much bigger open space. You're able to integrate it more easily. Like if you're going to have a food and beverage experience, you could actually have your drawing class or your printmaking class and have it merge into a dinner or a cocktail party, or have people working in the studio while your event is going on, and you're able to kind of have this juxtaposition of things happening at the same time because the space is just open and big enough for it, and that's what ECHO kind of stands for. It's about the expressive collaborations we have with people.
The art featured in the museum's gallery is predominantly from Bahamian artists.
It's important for us to be able to create these kind of connections that then allow people to see what we think is a more authentic, more kind of rich, more complex perspective of who Bahamians are, what Bahamian history is about, what Bahamian culture is about, because I think that the arts do that better.
And none of this happens in a vacuum. ECHO prides itself on its relationships with other local creative organizations, especially the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas.
And we also have a big relationship with the National Art Gallery of the Bahamas. We actually have a satellite space of the National Art Gallery within ECHO, which is the first time that's happened in 20 years. So, you know, we're very happy about what the potential for ECHO brings to the local art community and to the international perspective.
And you know, it's not just a space for professional artists. The ECHO space also hosts art classes for adults and children, and it's available as a space to rent for your own events. So reporting live from Bahamas ECHO, I'm Marlena Leonard. Back to you, Candino.
All right, thanks a lot for that, Marlene. I'm definitely going to check it out. Now, if you want to watch that story again or for any of today's top stories, remember you can visit ournews.bs and share all your favorites right from the Our News Facebook page. That's going to do it for us in News at 7. Our coverage of the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government continues live from the Bahamas Resort with our Talia Hall. She's got the latest headlines.
Optimistic for a resolution. First tonight on Our News Live at 7:30. The immigration minister remains hopeful for a regional solution to help Haiti. Plus, our Megan Shepherd joins us live as the 44th meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government wraps up. And later, the Coalition of Independence leader and some supporters arraigned on unlawful assembly charges. And our Marlena Leonard joins us live from ECHO, one of the newest art spaces on the island. Our News Live at 7:30 starts in a moment. Of CARICOM Heads of Government coming to a close just moments ago, marking the end of what regional leaders are calling a successful meeting. Welcome to Our News Live at 7:30. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Talia Hall. We are coming to you live from Bahamas Resort on Cable Beach, where the closing press conference happening moments ago. Welcome to Our News Live at 7:30. We have continued team coverage tonight with our Megan Shepherd, who's been following these meetings. But before we check in with Megan, we have Immigration Minister Keith Bell, who is remaining optimistic about coming up with a solution to the crisis in Haiti based on discussions at this week's high-level meetings. He says talks have been fruitful.
I can say that in the discussions from the sessions I've been in, as you would appreciate, we cannot discuss much, but they're very fruitful. It is one thing is for certain in respect to immigration, is that we have to take action.
That action taken, Bell says, must be a united one.
We want to make sure that we speak with one voice when the action is taken in respect to a very coordinated plan. And in all of that, it has to be undergirded, and really the Haitian community, the Haitian society, the country itself have to be in the forefront of that. And so I am very optimistic from what I've seen, and I'm sure the Honorable Prime Minister will have a whole lot to say in the not too distant future.
Well, Haiti is definitely a hot topic at the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government. Our Sasha Lightborn spoke with the Turks and Caicos Islands immigration minister, who shared his views on the matter.
Don't get me wrong, you know, I sympathize with the Haitian people, but my job is to protect the people of the Turks and Caicos Islands, and I will do that by any means necessary and by all costs.
That's the immigration minister from the Turks and Caicos Islands, Arlington Musgrove. And just like the Bahamas' government, TCI has also spent millions of dollars on repatriations.
We spent about $8 million last year repatriating the Haitians back to Haiti. We can't continue doing that, so that's why we here in CARICOM have to figure out a way to help the Haitian people.
And he spoke to shared efforts by the Bahamas and the Turks and Caicos Islands to address the crisis in Haiti.
We just signed a shipwright agreement with the Bahamas where, as you know, one of our officers will be on the Defense Force boat and vice versa. The Bahamas is helping us out and not only in the shipwright agreement but also in intelligence. And that was proven last night. We had some intelligence about a sloop was heading our way. not directly to Turks and Caicos, but not directly to the Bahamas either. So I've shared that intelligence with Minister Monroe, who and then shared that with the commander. So the sharing of information is very important.
Musgrove says overall we have to be our brothers' keepers in the fight against illegal migration. Reporting for our news, I'm Sasha Lightburn.
While President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky addressing CARICOM meetings for the first time this morning, thanking the CARICOM body for their support of Ukraine and revealing how much the invasion has impacted his country.
109,045 square kilometers. Is normal life possible there on that part of our land? No, it is not. Human life is worthless there. This is what Russia has brought to our land.
He says Russia is destroying the environment in Ukraine, stealing property and selling chemical plants. Zelensky explained what happens whenever the Russian flag appears.
It meant that torture chambers and total looting will appear. And when we finally managed to liberate their land from Russian forces, we see a humanitarian disaster area where everything has to be rebuilt.
He says Ukraine wants Russia to leave their land because they are causing too much humiliation and death.
This is the reason why we are trying so hard to restore the power of international law.
The president says every state in the world should have the right to its independence.
I thank you for your efforts to bring stability to your region and the world. But real stability is possible only when we all together protect the world from state thuggery. So I encourage you to further cooperation.
Prime Minister Philip Davis responding to the president of Ukraine, telling him that the Bahamas condemns the actions taken by Russia.
We stand firmly with you and the international community in seeking a just and secure diplomatic solution to this terrible crisis.
While 3 days of high-level talks between regional and world leaders wrapping up this evening with a closing press conference, our Megan Shepard was there and joins us now with the highlights. Megan?
Thanks, Italia. As you mentioned, a number of topics were covered over the past few days, including strengthening economies, food security, the COVID-19 pandemic, and other health issues in the region, and of course, the ongoing situation in Haiti. Prime Minister Philip Davis, who is the chair of CARICOM, also noting that heads of governments have expressed concern over the levels of violence taking place in member states. He says they understand that it must be a holistic approach to tackling this issue, including legislative, police reform, education reform. And he also says that while speaking about what the heads of governments will do to come together to address the issue in Haiti, he was asked about the ever-growing shanty towns in this country, something that is a hot topic, or controversial topic rather, in the country. He says they cannot fix one issue while creating another, i.e. leaving hundreds or possibly thousands of persons homeless. He says the thought is being put into on how to address that issue. Prime Minister Davis also announcing that the 50th anniversary celebrations will take place July 3rd through 6th in Dominica. Reporting live from the Bahamas Convention Center, I'm Megan Shepard. Back to you, Italia.
All right, thanks so much, Megan. Well, clear skies in western New Providence this evening. We are still live on location at the Bahamas Resort tonight. Meteorologist Greg Thompson joins us from the Weather Center with a look at our current conditions. Good evening, Greg.
Thanks, Italia, and welcome everybody for our first quick check on weather. Outside our studios right now, temperatures are in the mid to upper 70s, 78 with a few clouds outside. Your winds are out of the southeast at 8 miles per hour, and that's bringing in those warm temperatures, making it feel like 76. Satellite view, ridge of high pressure that's been dominating our weather for the most of the week is now pulling out towards the east, keeping us in that south to southeasterly flow, bringing in those warmer temperatures and some patchy clouds. We are watching a frontal boundary now approaching western Florida. We expect that front to get near late tonight and into early Saturday morning with just a few showers, and it is likely to stall. That's your quick check on weather. Stick with us and look at your extended forecast still to come.
Still to come on our news, days after a traffic nightmare in western New Providence, the top traffic cop explains what led to the gridlock. But first, the Coalition of Independence leader faces charges in court today. We'll tell you how it unfolded in court. And later, high school students get valuable career advice. That story and more coming up when our news continues.
50th Carifta Games.
Go.
Coalition of Independence leader Lincoln Bain and several supporters stood before a magistrate today facing a number of charges stemming from Wednesday's protest, which ended in chaos. Berthree McDermott has the details in this report.
Coalition of Independence leader Lincoln Bain and party chairman Charlotte Green were among 18 people arraigned following an attempted protest this past Wednesday. Before court even began, shouting could be heard coming from the cell block believed to be Bain and his supporters. In court, Bain was charged with 1 count of unlawful assembly and 1 count of idle assembly on February 15th. He pleaded not guilty to both charges and was granted $2,000 bail with 1 or 2 sureties. Bain, however, informed the court that he was to travel to the United States to care for a special needs child on some weekends. To that, Magistrate Carolyn Vo Evans ruled that he is to sign into the South Beach Police Station once a month. As for Green, she was charged with unlawful assembly, disorderly behavior, idle assembly, and resisting arrest. She pleaded not guilty to those charges and was given $4,000 bail with 1 or 2 sureties. She's required to sign into the South Beach Police Station once a week. Crystal Smith was also among the group arraigned today. She was hit with unlawful assembly, resisting arrest, and idle assembly charges. She too pleaded not guilty to the charges. However, when she entered the court, she was limping. Her attorney, Ellsworth Johnson, told the court that she was assaulted by a police officer. The magistrate then ordered a release form for her and released her into her sister's custody. She is to return to court on Monday for the completion of her bail application. As for the other supporters arraigned today, they were all hit with similar charges. They all pleaded not guilty and were granted bail. Now, Bain will return to court on May 10th for trial. As for his supporters, some will return on May 4th, while others will come on May 8th. Reporting for Our News, I'm Berthree McDermott.
Thanks, Berthree. Well, a doctor was jailed for 6 months for possession of an illegal handgun. Dr. Gregory Tynes, who works at the Princess Margaret Hospital, will spend an additional 3 months behind bars if he doesn't pay a $500 fine for an ammunition possession charge. He was also fined $4,500 for possession of over 2 ounces of marijuana. Now, back on July 25, 2021, police officers executed a search warrant on the doctor's childhood home in Garden Hills. In his testimony, Tynes said that he had moved in with his girlfriend back in 2020 and was no longer a resident of the home, although he was there when the police came to search. Tynes said he had given his friend Aristo Stubbs to live in the home rent-free. Stubbs testified on Tynes' behalf. The magistrate did not believe this, and he convicted Tynes of the offenses. Officer in charge of the Police Force Traffic Division, Chief Superintendent David Lockhart, is addressing Wednesday morning's traffic nightmare in western New Providence. Many angry and frustrated drivers vented on social media saying they were caught off guard. Chief Superintendent Lockhart acknowledged that initially no roadblocks or diversions were slated for Wednesday.
Due to security measures that had to be quickly put in place, we found it necessary to do some road closures and diversions. We did know that it would cause some slight traffic congestion, but when we initially had given the road closures for Thursday, I did say then that the public should be aware that the need may arise for some additional road closures and diversion, and that is what you saw on Wednesday.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, UB Mingos getting their tournament off to a slow start in Florida. We'll give you details on that. Also give you all the latest from DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns as they once again retake to the floor. That's coming up in sports.
It's time now to meet the starters.
RTV, home of the 50th Carifta Games.
This is Our News broadcasting live from the Bahamas Resort, where the 44th regular meeting of CARICOM Heads of Government meeting wrapped up moments ago. Welcome back. The University of the Bahamas basketball team starts tournament play in Florida, and DeAndre Ayton is back in action with the Suns. Marcellus Hall is up now with a check on sports.
All right, thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. The UB Mingos are on a road trip this weekend here in the state of Florida as they look to see if they can see some tournament wins against a couple of teams here in their local region. That being said, they had their first game last night. Let's see how they did. Mingos in action, going up against at the Skinner Classic on Wednesday night. First shot. UB Mingos in action at the Skinner Classic in North Miami, taking on the Florida Palms Owls. Theodore Grant into Dave Lindsay with the pull-up jumper. Mingos up 31-27. Meanwhile, there's John K. Edgecombe driving, gets his own rebound, puts back for two. Mingos up 33-29. Theodore Grant now with the rebound, picks up 2 of his 15 points, game tied 39-all. And then Edgecombe with the off-balance shot for the Mingos. Mingos down 42-39. Then it was Lindsay with the long three, ties the game at the half, 42-all. To Delano Armbruster, 4-2. Armbruster had 8 points. Mingos up 49-47. Meanwhile, it's Grant now with the pull-up for the two. Mingos up 52-50. They can't hold off the late surge from the Owls, though. They dropped this one 77-71.
It's a very good game. It comes down to possessions. 20 turnovers. Every time you have 20 turnovers, it's usually be a problem for us at 20 or more, and we had 20 turnovers tonight. But all in all, the game was still within reach. You have Dave Lindsay, 25 points, played real well, and the game was right down to one free throw. So that's how the game went.
Back to the NBA where DeAndre Ayton and his Phoenix Suns were in action. They hosted the LA Clippers. Tight game into the fourth quarter, but Paul George and Terrence Mann simply too much. They scored 26 points apiece, and the Clippers got the win here, 116-107. As for DeAndre, he played 31 minutes, 18 points, 6 rebounds in the contest. Suns, they continue their slide in the Western Conference. They are now fourth with a record of 32-28. Wondering when their next game is. When it comes your way on Friday when they take on the OKC Thunder. And that's a check on sports here on this Friday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, getting an up-close look at one of Bahamas' newest art spaces. Plus, your weekend weather planner is straight ahead right after this quick break.
It's time now to meet the starters.
RTV, home of the 50th Carifta Games.
This is our news. Welcome back. Pleasant conditions as the 44th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting wraps up here at the Bahamas Resort. Greg is back in the Weather Center with a look at what we can expect this weekend. Greg?
Yeah, thanks again, Natalia, and welcome back, everybody, for our final check of weather. A warm day around the islands as a ridge of high pressure continues to dominate our weather. That ridge is sliding out towards the east. That's paving the way for a frontal boundary that's taking shape across Florida. A couple isolated showers expected with that frontal boundary. Expected to get near sometime late tonight and into early Saturday morning. And that frontal boundary is likely to stall across the area, but it will be lifting back towards the north. And once again, high pressure will be building across the area for the beginning of next week. Taking a look at our future forecast, showers and isolated thunderstorms expected with the front as it moves towards Florida, weakening, sliding across the area by early Saturday morning, and then by Sunday, as I mentioned, we expect that front to lift back towards north, and a high pressure system will build back across our area. Boating forecast for the northwest and central Bahamas tonight through tomorrow. Your winds will start off out of the southeast to south, but they will shift northeasterly once that frontal boundary goes through the northern Bahamas. 15 to 20 knots will be your speeds. Winds will be 3 to 5 feet initially, but they will be building back tomorrow 4 to 7 feet in some easterly swells. Your low tide will be at 11:22 tonight. For the southeast Bahamas, an advisory is still posted for you guys down there due to the swells. Your winds falling off somewhat east to southeast, 15 to 20 knots. They will be gusting at times, but your seas will remain 5 to 8 feet in some easterly swells. Here's a look now at your national forecast. In your extended forecast, quiet weather, a couple of showers expected with the front once it gets in here, but those temperatures will remain near the 80-degree mark and beautiful weather expected for the beginning of next week. That's a look at our weather. Make it a safe evening and have a great weekend, everybody.
All right, Greg, thanks so much. Well, after a long week of international relations and high-level meetings, we thought we'd leave you with something creative to start your weekend. Marlena Leonard joins us live from Bahamas Echo Museum. Now, they call it a museum, but it seems it's more than just a gallery, right, Marlena?
Yes, Italia, it's much more than just a viewing space. It's a space where you can learn, you can create, you can be entertained. I mean, it's so fluid and evolving that even down to these big walls behind me that you can see, not the pillars, but the walls, they can move. They call them elephants, and they can move around the room, which actually offers more freedom for them when they're doing space rentals or any kind of creative event that they have going on here. It allows them much more freedom to create more space for people. And people have been using this space for those creative events. They hosted 6 nights of one of the Shakespeare in Paradise productions last month, and they've even had multiple concerts here in this space. And again, you may be hearing all of these big events and thinking, well, I'm not a professional artist, or maybe I'm not in that community quite yet, but it's not just for people who feel like they're officially an artist. They have art classes for adults and for kids, and if you're interested in any of their other workshops, you can also just check out their Instagram page, which is The Current Echo, for frequent updates and more information. So before I go, I just want to thank the team here at Echo for their wonderful hospitality here today, and also the entire Bahamar community for helping me today. And just, I hope everyone had a wonderful day and has a wonderful weekend. Back to you, Italia.
All right, thanks so much, Marlena. I definitely have to check it out. It looks great. And with that, our coverage from Bahamar Resort on Cable Beach comes to a close. A special thanks to Bahamar for the beautiful accommodations for our broadcast for the past 3 days. And don't forget to come and visit the newly unveiled Echo Museum. With that, we thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Italia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.